you know how much I love dogs in art and how much I love dogs in cartoons and how much I love the cartoons where the characters are meaningful and leave a legacy. Well, that's why we're jumping on Zoom now to cross the pond and speak to David Vozar about his cartoon character called Chippy that's made a big impact across the world. I'm Anna Webb. Welcome to A Dog's Life. David Vozar, thank you so much for coming on A Dog's Life.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Well, I'm just so intrigued by Chippy. Start, please, by telling us who Chippy is.
Well, Chippy was my dog when I was a little boy. He was my first dog. And I think, first dogs live in the hearts of probably everybody. And he always just sort of stayed around with me. His breed was, he was a mixed breed. We were told he was a Beagle American Foxhound, but he was quite a mix. Sort of one of those nondescript dogs that you see coming out of shelters, and pretty unique. People always ask me, it's funny because people always send me pictures of their dogs that they think looks like Chippy, and I've seen everything from Malteses to Foxhounds to everything. People sort of see their own dogs in Chippy for some reason.
Well, he's adorable. He's white and kind of typically dog shaped, which I think is the key here. And it's his messages, right? Now, why did you start these GIFs? Because Chippy has started his life as GIFs during the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, the evolution of it, I was a creative director in publishing for about 45 years. And in the beginning, when the work used to route, it used to route on paper. You would do a layout with markers and pens, and there would be this white space on the side of the layout. And I would put, the piece of paper would be routing to 15 people to get approved or to get comments. And I would put little comics in the margins of these layouts, and it would say, Chippy loves you, or Chippy's happy to see you, or it was just like a frivolous thing that I was doing at the time. And when MySpace launched, I was sort of professionally interested to understand social media, and I was much too shy to go on as a person, so I went on as Chippy the Dog. And at the time, there were no animations. I was just drawing pictures and putting stuff on people's pages and saying, hi, Chippy says hi. And I could not get arrested. Like, nobody would accept friendship from Chippy. And ironically, this is really interesting to talk to you, because in the UK, they were the first people to say, hey, this is okay to adopt this fictional cartoon dog. And it really grew from that. When MySpace crashed, I moved over to Facebook. Was not really working for me because there was no viral aspect to Facebook. I moved to Tumblr and began to create these animations. Chippy was edgier. He had like comics about dating and different kinds of things like that. And this young person wrote to me after I posted a comic, and she wrote, that last post wasn't Chippy. And I thought to myself, I wrote back to her, you know what, you're right. And I was looking around at Tumblr, and I saw a lot of young people looking for positivity, no sarcasm, looking for more support. And I just decided that at that point, Chippy was going to all be about unconditional love. And I wanted to do everything to sort of push back on all the negative stuff that goes there, and just sort of be a little oasis for people who want to experience something different. And that's how I sort of got into this rhythm of creating these GIFs for Chippy.
I love that, because we are, as globally, aren't we, suffering a lot from mental health. I mean, my own personal view, ironically, David, is that I believe social media creates a lot of it, a lot of anxiety, a lot of kind of expectation, and it's not really in the real world. And I mean, so I'm probably saying all this because of my age, but that's why I think Chippy's so refreshing, because actually real dogs are good for your mental health, you know?
Yeah.
So he's just really channeling what dogs do for people, I think.
Yeah, it's a funny it's a funny because I try to make them funny at the same time that he is, he starts off as a dog where he's doing dog things. The next thing you know, he's jumped the shark and he's bringing a yacht. So I think that that's the unexpected behavior that keeps it alive. There was recently, about 3 nights ago, I have a certain stream of gifts that I like to create for kids who are experiencing self-harm. And it's a very close topic to me personally. And I put up this very simple GIF of him with 2 signs, and it says, "Please don't self-harm tonight." And then the other one said, "I love you." And I was just blown away by the community of kids jumping on and supporting people who said it's been 3 weeks. And you see these comments like, "I can't believe a cartoon dog stopped me from self-harming tonight." And you go, wow, it sort of blows you away that you can have that kind of dimension to effect on people. It's just that it's just so rare that someone either acknowledges them or shows positivity for them.
Yeah, I mean that's such a great fact. I love that.
Yeah.
And I understand what it is. I mean, as a young person, I was obsessed by Snoopy, for example. You know, that was kind of my era. And oh gosh, all the other ones, Hong Kong Fooey was another one. And these dogs played these cartoon dogs, they were why I watched them, you know, and they were like the heroes. They were the comics.
Yeah.
They made everything come right in the end. You know, they're like the
Yeah.
heroes of the comic strip world. And it's interesting because, of course, it's art. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Snoopy should go down, and indeed, so should Chippy go down in history as being art, which affects culture. Am I
Yeah.
getting too deep here?
No, no, I live it. Yeah, Snoopy or is very self-assured and cool, and Chippy is more desperate and obsessive. There was this one young person commented on Chippy the other day, and she really got it. She said, "Somebody really has to help this dog because every day he's showing up with a different way to express his love for you." And it's a very interesting space to inhabit because there are so many dimensions of love that come back on him, whether it be grief or loss, or people who've lost their dogs, or people who love their dogs so much, or families who are separated, and people use Chippy as a connector. I never intended it to be a connector as it's become. I still think of it when I created, I'm doing it from Chippy to one person. But people have they've sort of, pardon the pun, adopting him as their love mascot to either build relationships or initiate relationships or sustain relationships. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. And it really does give you a view of humanity that is extremely heartwarming. That, rather than segmenting people out from one another, the commonalities can be found, like talking about sort of making this more global, to sort of bringing people together. And I think a dog is a safe place to do that, in a way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, they're man's best friend. And of course,
Yeah.
I guess Chippy's sort of rise to fame paralleled this massive boom in dog ownership. Do you think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was part of it?
Yes, absolutely. I think even dogs that were in their lives, they brought into their lives in a way, because they were home with them all the time. I know certainly my dog, who's never 5 feet away from me, it feels like people have really re-engaged. I think they were, not having to drag themselves to the office, being able to be home and appreciate, having these lovely animals with them, has really made that stronger. And then also the fact that they couldn't get physically to the people that they cared about was another piece of it. And there's a way to sort of use the dogs for that.
Yeah, and just, send lovely, lovely, funny messages to cheer people up that
Right.
don't invade your space too much. When people send you a really long WhatsApp message or something,
Yeah.
and that's all great and lovely, but then you've got to reply in another long way. And before you know it, 20 minutes has passed of your day, whereas just sending a GIF that, as you mentioned in your ABC interview, lasts 4 seconds. It
Yeah.
kind of fits perfectly with perhaps what's happening to us is that our attention span is shrinking.
Yeah, I mean, I see it all the time. If I do something that's over 10 seconds, it doesn't do as well. I mean, it's really, it has to like, it is like a little, I keep saying it's like a little 7-second movie because it has to begin and end in the same place. It has to do something. It has to move. It has to, and it's a really fun art form for me personally. I haven't got, after all these years, I'm not tired of it at all. It's a lot of fun, and Giphy, um, they were sort of a turning point for me as well because they wrote to me. I was just using Giphy. It's a place to upload your GIFs, and they would convert them to MP4s. So I was using it primarily for that, not in itself for other people to use the content. And they wrote to me at one point and they said, if you use first person tags, they'll do much better. And instead of saying Chippy loves you, I would say I love you, and it just Chippy is there. And that was one of the things that sort of propelled it. And you talk about the pandemic, there would be 1 billion views a month going through Giphy during that time period. And it's very unlike anything else that's on that page. It's just because I sort of have a primitive style of art that I do.
Yeah, I love it. That's their key, their simplicity.
Yeah.
That's what really has appealed to me actually, because obviously I love dogs and I know the joy that dogs can bring you. But sometimes you need reminding of it when you're out in the pouring rain with
Right,
your
right.
dog, and you're like, come on, hurry up, because this and that. And I just think, yeah, I mean, certainly Chippy's brought a big smile to my face. I'm really into it. I didn't know Chippy existed until recently, and I feel a bit deprived.
Yeah, it's a fine line because I don't, I never intended, because I came out of that world of brands and marketing, and I never wanted Chippy to be that. That's why there's no watermark on it. There's no TMs or Cs on it. I want it to be owned by the people who use it. And I studied in college. I was an illustration major and I studied calligraphy. And I think Chippy is very calligraphic. So every time I draw him, I discover something else, in him, like in his eyes or something. He's sort of taken on a life of his own the more I've worked with him.
Gosh, and you've got some books coming out
Yes,
now as well, have you not?
yes, I'm very excited. Once again, I guess about over 12 years ago, I decided to self-publish, and I created If Chippy Was Your Dog, which was sort of a collection of all of the stories that I had sort of told about Chippy over the years. And it's really the story of Chippy asking you to be his dog. Everything I write is always to the reader. So Chippy's is appealing to you. Can he please be your dog? And I created this book and self-published it. Could not get published in publishing. And then a few years later, I did 100 Ways to Love You, which is really his list of things that he would do for you, if he could be your dog, or how he could show his love for you. And that was really fun because it's content from everything from picking up scraps off the floor to going out for walkies, to at the end bringing down the moon and the stars just for you, because when you look into a dog's eyes, you can sort of, and I'm sort of empathic when I'm working. I look at the dog, I look at her, and love is just so abounding. They would do anything, and then I go, okay, what would the thing be that Chippy would do? And I come up with these ideas from the very small to the gargantuan, and that's what 100 Ways to Love You is. So it was really fun. And then when the ABC News piece came out, what was funny about that, there was a fan on Chippy's Instagram account. He kept writing to me and saying, oh, I work for ABC News and I'm pitching you to be on ABC News. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Because things come through all the time. And about 6 months later, he says, I spoke to my producer and they want to put you on. And then the producer called me up and she said, we want to put you on tomorrow. And now,
Oh,
and you're probably getting a sense from this how shy I am. It was like, to do what? What am I doing? And they put me on live and it was fantastic, but also, horrifying. Um, the the next day I wrote to my friends that one woman was a publisher in HarperCollins, another one was a bookseller at Barnes and Noble. And I said, I've been on ABC News. Now, do you think somebody could publish me? And they introduced me to, one of them introduced me to uh, Dominique Roca at Sourcebooks, and we had a lovely chat on a Zoom call, and she totally got what I was trying to do, and they really took a really great leap to do these two books and publish them this fall, which is, I'm very excited about it, because I really wanted, the reason I do the books was to extend the world for Chippy's fans. So I'm really excited that people will be able to have access to these books.
yeah, gosh, I mean, I'm excited. I mean, I can see these books being used in schools,
Yeah.
to help educate children about dogs, children that are fearful of dogs or allergic to dogs, to show children from the grassroots up the joy and the brilliance of dogs, really, and make people smile at the same time.
Yeah, and there was a lovely organization I worked with many years ago in my professional life called Pause for Reading. They used to send dogs to schools for the kids to read books to the dogs because it motivated kids to read if they were reading to a dog. And I always thought that was a great idea. And it just sort of once again extends that connection,
Yeah.
that safe place.
No, I get you. We've got various organisations here that do that, go into schools and the reading. It's great because, of course, dogs don't judge you. They don't
Right.
mind if you can't
Right.
say a word properly or miss a page accidentally on purpose or something.
Yeah.
And that's that calming effect again that dogs give you, in real life. But I think the way you've captured Chippy and he's so much fun. I really, he's simple and fun. And for me, I think simplicity and fun can be maybe missing out of our modern world at the moment. Sometimes it's the daftest things that should make you laugh out loud, but we're all a bit afraid, I think, maybe
Yeah.
to have fun. Have I gone mad?
No, I think you're right. As I'm working, I try to stay out of any kind of segmentation, politics, anything that's going to trigger anyone. And it's hard.
Mm.
It's actually really hard too, because people are so passionate about many, many things, and you could inadvertently do things that are going to trigger them. But that's why, dogs and my imagination connecting to what a dog would do is a really safe place to operate. And the wider you get with your audience, the more mindful you have to be of how you're including everybody in the conversation, and everybody can connect. And I think the dogs is sort of a cheat sheet to do that in a way, because they can, it's everybody can connect to an animal, I think.
Well, yes, hopefully, absolutely. But
Yeah.
also some cultures are, not as dog centric as
Mhm.
others, perhaps. So it's a
Yeah.
way of opening the door, I think, to those that might be a bit skeptical of dogs as well. But no, the books sound amazing. So are they going to be available in the UK as well, David?
I believe so. I don't know if right now the launch is going to be there. I will connect back to the publisher and just confirm that. Because I know Chippy does have a huge audience in the UK and Australia, Canada. Um, and actually, I've really been amazed how global he has become, from Russia to Philippines to South Africa, South America. I've gotten notes from everybody from everywhere, which is fabulous to see. I don't know how broad the publish. I know usually international rights is the second wave of publishing, so I
Right.
don't know. I don't know where we are with that at this point.
No, so I mean, in terms of your global audience, what would be one of the most, you mentioned earlier about self-harming and
Mhm.
Chippy stopped self-harming. What other stories kind of made you go, oh wow?
Well, I mean, people who write to me about, um, I mean, this pretty heavy things. You know, their mother could be terminally ill. One of my other rules, well, I should put this on a podcast, but I tried ever to say no to special requests. Uh, so whenever I can, I've done wedding invitations. I've done anything people ask me, I try to say yes. And that's getting harder and harder with his popularity, but I still pride myself to try to do personal things for people whenever I can. I've done uh, proposals. Will you marry me? I've done anniversaries. A lot of military families separated, write to me about using Chippy as a connector. I've had a lot of people, young people are tremendously gripping in terms of their depth of connection and their, I don't want to like betray their words, but just saying how important it is that Chippy's there for them every day. And that's one of the other motivators to keep me going, is that I have to keep coming up with content because they really are devouring it and they need it on a daily or multiple times a day. But it's very it's I've sometimes have to stand back and try to understand the depth of the connection to this project, and it's much deeper than I would ever have imagined. Um, and some people use it as the mascot for their relationship. I'm seeing more and more people getting tattoos, Chippy tattoos, which to me was a huge leap in terms of connection. I didn't know what to make of that at first.
That's amazing. I mean, has Disney been in touch with you or anybody? You know, I
Oh,
can see the movie, Chippy
uh,
the movie.
I know. No, I mean, I sort of take it. I just whatever door opens, I'll go through. I've been a one-man show for a long time. In the last year when the books um, started, I'm getting interested in the books, that I did get an agent, so hopefully that will help me. But once again, I don't create to be viral. I create to affect one person. If it, I don't care if there's a gamification when you watch it, things that work or don't work, but it never bothers me if it doesn't go wide. It's just as satisfying if one person responds to it as a million. I've had GIFs go over 1 million views on Instagram, and I could not sit here and predict when that's going to happen, or if it's really interesting to watch.
No, it is interesting. I mean, this whole social media world we're in, it kind of fascinates me. And I think what it also does is scare me.
Yeah,
The amount of communication and the depth or not of it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, and I think going back to dogs on social media, the way their antics are being served up, and going back to your question earlier about the adoption of dogs and the popularity, I'm not surprised that I wouldn't be surprised if that is not a big contributor. People seeing dogs doing funny things and really appreciating the dimensions of owning a dog. But also social media it's when it started to really boom for me on Instagram and TikTok, people started coming through in messages and different ways than I expected, and that was overwhelming, because there are a lot of voices that come in through that doorway, which can be very disconcerting as well, either gripping or disturbing at the same time, and you have to sort of put up a certain amount of barriers in your brain to sort of avoid that negative voice that will come through when you're working.
Yeah, I can imagine that actually, because of course that is a big factor,
Yeah,
isn't it? The negativity side. So,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I bet you, in a way, does Chippy keep you going? He's like become your alter ego.
He, I mean, I mean, some people might think it's my ego because there is the more I'm not that calculating in Chippy's when I'm working on Chippy, but after it's done, I'll go, wow, what would a psychologist say about me by creating this incredibly obsessive, needy dog who shows up every day? But yeah, I retired from as a creative person. I worked for Scholastic for 26 years. And I retired last August, and this has really become my work. This is what I do every day. This is what I love to do. I love to draw. I love to discover new things as I create. And it is keeping me going. Yes, absolutely.
Oh no, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. So the books are out this October and we need to get the heads up on their availability in the UK, David. This is great. I can't wait to plow through your Instagram page and, and understand Chippy even that bit more. Do you know what I mean? It's great.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I've been listening I listened to Lady B podcast last night.
Yes.
And I was like, sort of taken with your conversation about positivity. And, in a way, positivity for people is just as beneficial. I was sort of taken by that conversation about how dogs respond to that. So
Yeah,
it's
no, that's
interesting.
true. I mean, having yourself in a good space with dogs. I mean, dogs smell cortisol rising and falling in your body, so they know when you're in a good mood or a bad mood. And stressed individuals have high cortisol, and so do their dogs. If when blood's been analysed between a stressed human and their dog, so it's like dogs are like their owners. So and I think positivity, it really is. I know things can be hard, and there's the cost of living crisis, but to try and to think of something good, and that's what Chippy's helping people achieve. I feel that the cup is always half full in my world. I try to keep it that way. So, and David, you're helping people do that, I think. Anyway, gosh, no, I've loved this. I'm so pleased you listened to Lady B. Her cycle ride, by the way, it's been a bit of an adventure for her. She nearly came off her bike.
Wow.
And there's a car that brushed really closely by her. So it's all been quite a drama. But yes, I enjoyed speaking to Lady B. She's quite a character, and she's doing this huge cycle ride, from one end of England right up to the top of Scotland. Yeah, to help retired service animals, which is so important. So, David, well, look, thank you so much for joining us and inspiring us about Chippy.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That's our show, Mr. Binks. What did you think? Yes, Chippy does sound like a real chipper little personality. And you're right, it is time for Woof of the Week. When in doubt, don't forget all the positivity that your dog brings to you every day. Well, I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please rate and review the show wherever you tune into your podcasts. It really makes a difference. Thanks again, of course, to David Vozar for joining us today, and all the links to Chippy and to Chippy's new books that are coming soon are all in the show notes. Thanks, of course, to Mike Hansen, my producer, for all the music and production as ever. Find out more about him at Podpeople UK. And find out more about me at Anna Webb Dogs. What's that, Mr. Binks? Yes, you're right. We will be back in your feed next Sunday, so why don't you subscribe now? And that way you'll never miss another show. Bye for now.
Pod people.